And here we go. Would you please give us your name and surname, who you are, where you're based, and what is it that you do?
So Thembi Dunjana over here. I'm from Cape Town. Well, I'm a pianist, a musician. Nothing much to say. I'm a very simple person, to be honest. But of course, music is what I do. I've been playing piano from around the age of about 10 years old, and I'm doing it professionally now. I perform and other things related to music. So, yeah.
Okay, you mentioned playing since around the age of 10.
Yeah.
In South Africa, in Gugulethu, a young girl playing piano from the age of 10. Could you please tell us like how that world or that universe is created?
Well, I've always been the child that's like a homebody. So even though I grew up in the township, I was very much like at home. You know what I mean? So while my father loves jazz, he's had a guitar ever since, he's always playing guitar, checking jazz guitar. So I think that's kind of like the sound that I had in my mind. And because of that also, he kind of encouraged me to do music as well. So lucky for me, I had parents who actually encouraged me to do what I love. I don't, because I tend to hear a lot of stories about like people saying I wanted to do something in the arts, but my parent was like rather do accounting, etc. You know how it goes. But my parents were very encouraging. So I started out playing recorder. My primary school had a music department, and I was also very fortunate because my parents really valued education, so they put me in good schools, you know what I mean? So I played recorder from around the age of 9 years old. That's grade four. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to play piano because I used to see my teacher. She would accompany me, obviously, when I was playing the recorder. And then what she was doing was more of interest to me. So 2 years later, grade six, I was like, I think I'm going to switch over to piano. And my mother was like, okay, cool. She got me this small little, because my mother teaches in Kailicha, she still teaches there to this day. And they had like these instruments that the kids are not using. So she kind of took one for me. It was like a small little 4-octave keyboard that I would just kind of dabble around. And then also I was getting musical training, classical training at school. And then by the time I got to high school, we had jazz band. So I did classical music throughout primary, throughout high school, but then we had jazz band in high school. Um, and I don't know, that really stuck with me. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this at university. And so I just did an undergrad degree in jazz studies. And then,
And can you tell me about like now this is in hindsight, where you're living in you said Gugulethu, right?
yeah,
Yeah, you're living in Gugulethu and you're going to these schools that are outside of Gugulethu. And
yeah.
there's the sound of transit, there's the sound of people, there's the sound of life. How has that been collected into the music that you make now? Aside from, yes, the jazz that you were hearing at home and what your father was playing, the choral music that your mother was part of, there's the transit music, there's a transit sound that's always there.
Yeah.
How is that now coming in to your life?
Get you. I totally get you. Yeah, there's always, I mean, the township was very open and, you just kind of like skip around and hearing music. In fact, I've noticed that, especially when I did my first album, a lot of the sounds the melodies that I was coming up with, some people would say that melody sounds so like familiar, or it's like I can resonate with it. And it's kind of sounds that I would hear growing up, like in radio. Even I would say ritual music that, the rituals that people did at home. Obviously, those things do come into my psyche. But for me, when it comes to music and artistry, it's always an organic process. So I never really tend to pull, if I say I want to create a song that's like African, or I don't know. I don't compose like that. the compositions come naturally, and then I will title it according to more or less what it sounds like. But definitely those sounds have a subliminal, not even subliminal, but indirect influence on me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking about your first album, Intyatyambo Part 1, it's got the song Beloved Child and it's got On My Way.
Yeah.
There's stories there, and for me, with listening and going through your projects and your sophomore album now, you are a storyteller. It's like you've got a poetry background. It's like you're one of those girls that would sit, or those people that would sit amongst the poetry crowds, and you'd be listening, and you'd also go up. And it's because there's storytelling in there. There's rhythm even in the ways that you sing, but also there's simplicity, as if you just want to have a simple one-on-one conversation with the listener. Could you just tell us about Intyatyambo 1 and 2? Because also, Intyatyambo, why that as a title?
Yeah, so Intyatyambo was a period in my life when I was literally fresh out of college. I didn't have too many responsibilities. I really was just having fun. You know what I mean? I had a lot of music that I had written. Also, my peers who I had studied with, they also had, there was just a lot going on musically, and we were all just kind of excited. But yeah, songs like Beloved Child, On My Way, as you said, were definitely songs that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to put into words, because if I were to tell you like my process of composing, a lot of the times it's the melody first. So the melody will just come to me, you know. I don't know if you've ever had this where you're just sitting and then you just kind of like have a thing that's playing in your mind, like just like a rhythm or a melody. For me, it's always like the melody that just comes, and then from there I will harmonize it on the piano with the knowledge that I have. So I've noticed that those melodies always bring me home to that setting of childhood, like how I grew up. Gugulethu, just like running around in the streets sometimes and having nothing to do but just like sitting like a stupid kind of vibe. So it's intentional but also not, it's unintentional but also intentional. It happens naturally. I don't know, I honestly don't have much to say about that other than it happens organically. Also, 90s hip-hop has an influence on me as well, because I have a older cousin who used to play these those big videotapes that you would pop in
the
video player, whatever it's called, and he would play like those 90s hip hop or Cisco and all those vibes. Even the TKZ was like very influential. So that sound I also kind of, maybe it comes out in songs like Divine Lover and whatever else. So yeah, it's all kind of like it comes together in that album. But the titles always come later. I never really have an intention to write a song to tell a particular story. It just kind of happens according to the music. Like I'm those artists who is for the art's sake. You know what I mean? Like it's always the art first, and then the lyrics will come afterwards.
And then why that as a title for both?
I think I was at a time where I was kind of like coming into myself, and Intyatyambo basically means like a flower in blossom, I guess. So it was, I didn't think about it too much. I just named it Intyatyambo because one thing about me, I don't think too much. Like if it makes sense in the moment, I do it. So it was just, if I can really think about why I titled it that way, it is because I was coming into myself and starting to understand myself. Because obviously I was in my early 20s when I did the music, but Intyatyambo just made sense to title it that way. At the time, I couldn't think of anything better. So I was just like, yeah, Intyatyambo.
And then there's a song in Intyatyambo too, Ngexesha. It sounds so timeless. Sounds like a song that you would have played in the 80s, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and now. It's like just a total journey, and it also just it requires you to have a certain level of stillness. Could you tell me about that? Because as you said, you start with melody, you start on the art, and then everything else comes through. With Ngexesha, what is it going on there? Because it's like you're somewhere, it takes you somewhere.
Yeah. I remember there was a time where I was listening to Makhathini quite a lot. Ludozo Makhathini, I really, really was enjoying his album Listening to the Ground, as well as, I'm not sure if Inner Dimensions was out at that time, but that was also an album that I really, really enjoyed. And he kind of likes that sound, or at least in those albums of the, now I'm going to get into like music theory, but like of the minor one to like dominant chord 4 or major chord 4, because that song, it basically revolves around that. The tune of his called Waltz for Train. So I was listening to a lot of his music, and I think that sound in particular definitely influenced me to compose that song. But again, I think it started with the melody. I can't remember how that was composed, but it definitely started with the melody. It had to have been the melody. Yeah.
And as I'm talking to you, I'm just wondering in the back of my mind, like, how do you feel when people approach you and speak about your music, or when you're in conversation and they speak about your music, and for you it is just a simple way of existing, but people are expecting something grand or something interdimensional? Like, how do you engage with that, and how do you feel about it? You might engage with the conversation, but I'm sure there's thinking in the back of your head is like,
I think that's just how I am. I don't feel anything, to be honest. It just is what it is. I think we definitely live in a society where things tend to be a little bit more complex than what they are. Because for me, I enjoy listening to music for the sake of listening to music. I don't think about it too much. Obviously, there are stories behind it, but I love the art of it. I like the theory behind it. And sure, I can think of little stories that go with it, because obviously my music is also inspired by my life. But if someone is expecting something, I mean, I can't do anything about that. I can just give what, I can just be myself and give what. But I guess also music has that tendency where when you listen to it, you escape into the imagination. Maybe that's the thing that happens to people when they listen to music. So I definitely do understand where they would be coming from. So, but other than that, yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now we come to something that's very recent. God bless Ikapa. God bless Mzantsi. Can you just tell us? I think it speaks to itself for itself, the title itself, and also some of the songs they're in. But what is it that you are doing by titling your album as such?
Man, the first word that comes is gratitude. Like, it was just at a moment in my life where I was just grateful for everything. I'm grateful for the place that I grew up in, the city that I grew up in, like everything that I've just been afforded, you know. I was able to record the album in New York, which already was like a super blessing for me. So I was just feeling really grateful. I composed a lot of the music during the time when I was pregnant and had also just had a child, writing up arrangements and things like that. So it was really gratitude. I love my city. I love my country. So it really is just that saying, Lord, just protect us, kind of thing. Be with us. And gratitude, I think, is at the center of that. And then also, speaking of Cape Town and South Africa, the music is also then inspired by that. I'm sure you can see in the titles like Echoes of Gugulethu, Langa Lam as well. My daughter's name is Langa. So that was a dedication to her. What was the other one? Ikapa. A city dream, which kind of like speaks to sort of the fast-pacedness of the city and how it can bring you beautiful opportunities, and just kind of like that imagery of the city, so it's just gratitude all in all, and just a prayer for God to keep our country amidst everything that's going on, and its people.
Yeah, and I can't help but notice that, and this is through listening, that your beliefs are embedded in your music, like the songs that you make and the music that you make. Your beliefs, which is Christianity, it is evident throughout your music. How do you infuse that? Is it deliberate actually, or is it something that's like just an extension of you living?
Yeah, it's not deliberate, but I think it just happens. Like the one that goes, "In Jesus' name, I will write." I mean, the lyrics fit perfectly there. Yeah, I mean, it's not deliberate. Where I was like, I wanted to create a Christian song, or I wanted to evangelize in any kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe in you being a physical living example rather than the whole evangelism vibe. But yeah, it just sort of happens naturally, because obviously a part of music is a part of your life experience. So I think it just sort of naturally happens.
Yeah. And do you think part of the kinds of music that you're making, seeing that you're also an educator and a teacher, is your music also playing a part in extending that, teaching and engaging with people?
How do you mean?
Like through your music, like I'll go back to Langalami. It's there's a reverence that you have. There's even in the stories that you tell, it's stories that speak of the ilanga lizofika where it's good, or there's a day where it's going to be like this, or there's a feeling that's going to be like this, or this is going to end and that is going to happen, because that is a part of teaching. It's a part of saying, relax, the situation now is what it is. But
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Now that you put it that way. Yeah. Because I notice a lot of people that I teach, well, one thing I've learned about teaching, because teaching has also taught me a lot, is that I think a lot of people think that they need more information. They think they need a teacher. But what they don't realize a lot of the time is that they have what they need, but they need to believe in themselves and they need to get better at what they already have, rather than seeking out for the next best thing. So sometimes I do find myself in teaching spaces where I have to remind people of like life things as it relates to like, I was telling this other, one of my students the other day, I was saying, look, play the song with what you have. Like, don't forget about what the stuff that you don't have. See how you can make music out of the song, just with the tools that you've learned. Because if you're unable to do that, you could have, the saying, what you do with 1 rand is what you'll do with 1,000,000 rand. So it's like, make music out of what you have. So yeah, those little messages of hope or whatever, definitely I've noticed that sometimes when I teach, I kind of have to put that in there, kind of give those little affirmations and encouragement or reminders because sometimes it's not about needing more or needing a teacher. Sometimes it's about actually realizing what you already have and making music out of that. A song, you don't need a lot of harmonic knowledge to play a song. You can play a song very, very simply. But obviously what makes players great is that they have all of this other information that they can add onto the song. But to play a song, you don't need a lot of harmonic knowledge.
Yeah. So okay, that's a beautiful way of putting it as well. And like in this day and age, you recorded your current album in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Why, and also what value do you think that adds to the dimension of your music? Because you also collaborated with artists that side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why there? I mean, why not?
What would you say that was the value of that, but also the collaborations that you found that side?
Yeah. Well, I love the city. It's vibrant. It's fast paced. There's a lot of energy. It kind of, it gives you inspiration to work. Also, it's kind of the players there have. Obviously, South Africa has really amazing players, but the players there are really able to pick up really quickly. You know what I mean? And there was a guy who had asked me, were you not worried about them not being able to translate kind of like the African rhythms? And in my mind, I was kind of like, no, I'm not, because I wouldn't really expect them, or I wouldn't want them to play my music the way a South African, especially the drummer, would play. I'm open to interpretation. That's what jazz music is all about, It's mutable, it's adaptable, and what transpires is what was supposed to be, So I didn't put too much thought into it, but I was definitely excited to see what the scene is like, that side. Because obviously, being here in Cape Town, I've played with a lot of the same people. I mean, I still play to people that I studied with in college years ago. So it's nice to play with fresh people, and I played actually people who are around my age. So Zoe, I think, is like 2 years younger than me. Tim is about like 5 years older than me. Jerome, I'm not sure how old he is, but I think he's a little bit older, a little bit on the older side. And then Lucia Charles, also a bit older than me. But it was like around people who had completed their studies or now, fresh young musicians who are playing, similar to what I'm doing here in Cape Town. So we had a lot of in common, and I think there was some good chemistry in the band as well, because we had like two rehearsals and then 2 days in studio to record the whole album. So, I mean, it worked out literally so perfectly. There was, and New York is a vibe. It really is a vibe.
What led you to recording there?
Well, I got an opportunity to record there. So I did it with Seaton Hawkins. Mm-hmm. Seaton Hawkins is one of the directors at Jazz at Lincoln Center. He teaches at Juilliard. Is it Juilliard? Yes. Teaches at Juilliard. Mm-hmm. So he was the one who had brought me over to New York. So it literally was an opportunity that I could not take. I could not refuse.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But at the same time, New York was definitely one of those cities where I wanted to go. I wouldn't have chosen if I had anywhere else I mean, there's a lot of places in the world, but if there was anywhere else I would have chosen, particularly for jazz, I definitely would have wanted to go to New York for sure.
Yeah, and then I'll ask this question, and it's my last question, and that is, what is the point of your music? I know you make music for the sake of art, etc., etc., but what's the point of your music? Why is the point of your music even existing?
I don't know if there is a point. It's more like I'm doing what's in front of me. You know what I mean? I don't have any. I don't necessarily have a thing of this. I want to leave anything behind or be remembered any kind of way. It's my job. I do it for a living. You know, music pays my bills. I have to do it to survive. But then obviously at the same time, being who I am and the nature of the arts, it's going to tell more of a creative story. So I don't know if if there is a purpose to it. I'm neither here nor there about that, honestly.
Okay. For me, it interests me when I hear the different diverse responses that people give you with regards to their music, and it is my closing question generally, because I'm really curious about, because you sit and create something and then you put it out into the world, and then like no one asks you what the point of that is, you know.
Yeah. I think it's because naturally music is an art, so it's meant to be like entertaining. It's meant to teach you something, so it has a lot more eyes on it. But at the end of the day, the way that I see it is, I'm doing what's in front of me. Music has been in my life from a young age. I don't know what else I would be doing if I wasn't doing music. Actually, I do know, but it's just what's been in front of me. It's my job. So I have a particular purpose for it. If it has a purpose for someone else, then that's great. If not, then that's also fine.
Hi, and again, thank you very much for giving us at the listening room a chance to speak to you. Hopefully, as your career grows and spans out, we'll be able to have more conversations, because the idea is just to get your thoughts and minds around your music, around your life, so that for anyone who's interested or thinks about you, they have a way to reference you.